right.
Are we live?
We're live.
Wow.
This is a literal drive down memory lane.
Which way are we going?
Well, take me back. 2015. So we're getting ready. We're filming this right now.
Okay.
The start of training camp.
Okay.
2015, the day before the training camp starts in Wofford College. What are you doing?
So I'd always go down the night before and get all my stuff set up and then wait for all the guys to come down the following morning.
Now, that was pretty strategic. So I'm sure you liked getting everything sort of set up and organized. But did you do some of it to avoid the initial media scrum of training camp?
Well, a lot of it had to do with stress of making sure that I was down there on time. I never wanted to be. Once football season was getting started, I would always be a little bit on edge for a lot of reasons. Like, my thing was, all right, are we going to be any good this year? Am I going to remember how to play football? Like, that's the hardest thing is, all right, do I still remember how to tackle somebody? Because you go from the end of the season all the way into the first preseason game, you don't tackle a soul.
That's right.
So it's like, all right, hopefully I remember how to do that. I feel pretty good. All right, what is a limiting factor that scares me? Not being there on time. Something happening the day I drive down there, and then I'm late to training camp, and then I'm off to a bad start. So I always liked going down. I like getting all my stuff set up. I like having a casual morning in Wofford. A lot of it was just to kind of keep my nerves down throughout that first day of training camp. I didn't want to get up in the morning and then feel rushed and have to drive down there and then try to rush to get everything set up in my room and then make sure that I was to the conditioning test on time. Getting down there a day early allowed me to set all my stuff up. And then I got to wake up in the morning and I would go down to the cafeteria, have like a nice casual breakfast, and then wake up and then kind of go back to the dorms and see all my buddies as they showed up for training camp.
Yeah, my wife would have never let me leave for training camp a day early.
Yeah.
So I definitely had that morning anxiety of, did I get up? Can I get on the road? And my biggest fear wasn't getting there on time. It was getting stuck in some sort of construction traffic on I-85. That was a real fear. I was never worried about sleeping in. I was always very worried about there being some sort of construction on 85, which I think every year at training camp, I don't know that they ever completed construction. It's still under construction.
But the funny part is you think you live in like your own bubble of it. The traffic would only happen to me.
That's
not
right.
The rest of the 90 guys driving down the train or 89 guys driving down to training camp. The traffic would only pertain to me, which if there was a huge traffic issue, everybody would be affected. But of course, you're limited to your own individual situation.
You're going down to training camp, and if I can take you back a little bit,
okay.
One of the big storylines that you were dealing with professionally was your contract.
Yeah.
I'm sure you didn't really want to talk to the media. That's not really your style. You've always been great with the media, but you're not a chit-chatter with them. Do you remember any excitements, anxieties, worries about that as you're getting ready to go to training camp?
Not really, because I knew in my head I was like, I'm not holding out. Like I don't care. I'm gonna play football.
You can't tell anybody that.
No. Yeah. So like you can't. It's like such a game of cat and mouse of like what you can say, what you can't say, and I always loved training because it meant we got to play football again. And Tom Condon was my agent. He was fantastic, and I basically told Tom, I said, hey, look, I'm in training camp. I said I don't care really what's going on with the contract. Just whenever it's time for me to do something, just let me know. Because I'm going to let my job is to play football. Your job is to help me take care of this contract. So when you feel good about it, you let me know.
Right.
And when you feel good about it, I feel good about it. Doesn't just keep me up to date, obviously. But I didn't really talk to him a ton during that training camp. It wasn't a huge priority for me because I felt like it was gonna get done, because when they started talking about the deal was, months prior to training camp, I think. So I knew that it was a priority. And to me, it was like, my job is to get ready to play football. And my job is to be the best football player that I can be. And Tom Condon's job and Dave Gettleman's job is to take care of the contract. And so for me, it was super easy. Like, I go play football. Tom, when you need to talk to me, give me a call. If you've got nothing to report from that day, then I promise it's all good. So
and we had a lot going on at training camp.
Yeah.
So the two big stories kind of coming out of the end of the Wofford time was obviously Kelvin getting hurt between preseason 1 and 2, right in the Miami joint practices.
Yes, he ran a slant.
He ran a slant, stepped wrong, weird, whatever, and he went down. And he was a big part of our 2014 team.
Yeah, huge.
Do you remember any of the feelings? Did you have like anxiety? I know I did about, oh my gosh, like one of our top guys from last year goes down. How's that going to affect our team?
It was interesting because, obviously Kelvin was going into year 2. He came off a year where he had 1,000 yards. We're expecting big things from him. He came in great shape. Him and Cam had a great relationship. Cam loved throwing the ball. And then we had a great combination of, inside, outside with him and Greg.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Kelvin goes down, and it was just a bunch of, like, how does this affect what we do? But I think what always helped us in Carolina, obviously we had receivers that were our, number one receiver.
Yep.
But the guy that was the number one receiver the whole time we were there was Greg.
Sure.
So, like, for us, it was like, it's awful that Kelvin's hurt. It's a big part of what we're going to do on the offensive side of the ball. But Greg was so good that it didn't really matter. And with Greg, too, Greg didn't just play in line on the end of the formation as a tight end, right?
Yep.
So everybody in the NFL always talks about how can you get your one-on-one matchup on the backside of a formation. And basically what happened is we just put Greg over there.
That's right.
And then Greg and Cam would just run. It was basically a choice route.
Yep.
And I don't even really know if there was rules on it. I think if you drew up the play on a piece of paper, they'd have a route front side, they have the protection, and then it was basically just like Greg and Cam figure it out.
I think what those two did really well, as I was learning as we were going along over the 9 years that they played together, was they had a great sense of what the other one was thinking.
Exactly.
And so they did whatever was written on the paper was sort of irrelevant to just feeling what was happening on the field.
Yeah.
And that's something that you only create through trust and reps and practice. And I always thought Greg and Cam were great in communicating with one another. You saw it constantly.
And it was easy for them.
It was.
And the other thing, too, is, obviously when somebody goes down, how do you fill that void, right, with Kelvin?
Yep.
And that team had a couple guys that were really good in particular roles, right?
Sure.
So Ted was so vertical.
Yep.
Ted, take the defense off, create layers in the defense, create space. And then when he created space, now, all right, Greg, how do you fit inside that space? And then, like, guys like Koch on third down, Koch could go find windows. And then we had Philly, who was like a vertical guy as well. So we kind of had everything covered. We didn't have like a true Julio Jones, number one bona fide dude at the receiver spot. But we had Greg that was, if you put Greg on any team in the NFL, he would be their number one wide receiver. So you could line him up inside, you can line him up outside, you can line him up as a Z, as an X, as a W, as a Y. And Greg ran so well that he could stretch and guys could run underneath him. So he was a tight end, obviously, but he played in the passing game. He was basically a wide receiver, and he was the number one wide receiver for us. Obviously, the first guy to go over 3,000 3 years in a row. So we were super unique in the sense that Greg was able to just fill the void and was, even if Kelvin was there, Greg was our number one wide receiver.
I always thought that Cam's 2015 season was his best because he had Greg for third down.
Yeah.
And then he was beholden to nobody on that roster. Funchess was a rookie. Ted was the deep guy. Corey Brown was another receiver we had. Koch was a great another third down option, as we had a few big catches. The Seattle game I want to get to, New Orleans, the touchdown at the end. But I always felt like Cam had Greg and then whoever was open.
Yes.
There was never any pressure. I've got to feed a true number one wide receiver. And as a tight end being your go-to guy, I feel like it always naturally became a third down red zone guy.
Yeah.
We throw Greg any down, but you could play most of the game with the freedom to just hit the open man.
Exactly.
And I always thought that was a really huge benefit. So last thing in training camp, do you remember where you were for the Cam Newton-Josh Norman fight?
I was on the field. And
I was 2 fields over, so I only watched this via social media in 2015.
And it was one of those things where it was, how that field that we were on is the hottest place in the world. And it was the middle of training camp, and those guys have been going back and forth for, all practice, all training camp. And then that day, it's just one of those days everybody knows.
You know it's coming.
You know something's coming. You just don't know.
That's right.
You don't know what it is.
Yep.
And so Cam completes a ball on Josh and starts chirping, and then, Josh bats the ball down. He's chirping,
Sure.
and then it's like starting to get like, it's not fun and games anymore.
It's
now it's
ratcheting up,
and it's getting more serious
Yep.
and more serious, and you're like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen? And then I don't know what period it was, but it was a competitive period, like a super competitive, like move the ball, or
Sure.
It wasn't just like 7-on-7.
We're probably within the last 10 to 15 minutes of practice, if
Yeah.
I remember.
And Cam throws a ball and completes it on Josh, and Josh was like, Josh did everything right, but it was just a perfect throw.
Yep.
And you could see in Josh's head, like, I won that rep, but it was a really good throw, and I can't even say anything because it was a good throw. But of course, Cam's running his mouth, so Josh has to run his mouth back, and they're going at it. And then I don't know, a play or two later, Cam throws some ball, Josh picks it off, and he's running it back to the end zone. And he's got, how Josh used to hold the ball, like with one hand,
Yep.
and he's pointing at Cam with the other hand
Yep.
and chirping. And it was like, uh-oh. And Cam, once he started chirping at, like when he threw the pick, I think Cam was like, all right, that's a good play. Like, I'll take it. He's gonna chirp at me a little bit, but it's good. But then once Josh pointed at him and chirped at him, you could see like Cam was like, I can't let him.
No.
I can't let him do that. And that's when it happened. But
All bets are off.
Yeah, the funniest thing is like, you look at the picture and Cam's the biggest guy in the frame, and it's not like he's a normal quarterback.
No.
So it's just, and then after practice, it's like, yeah, who cares?
We're back to normal.
It doesn't even matter.
The best part of that whole exchange was the photo you have, and Cam's got a perfect smile.
And he's cheesing and his helmet's off.
I always thought Cam's had an uncanny ability to have a perfect smile no matter what the circumstance. The year prior, he got in the car accident.
And he's smiling on
smiled
the ground.
side. It's unbelievable. So, as we progressed in the regular season, so we were talking about the contract earlier.
Yeah.
Day before season starts in Jacksonville, you sign a record-breaking contract. Yeah. So obviously, your agent Tom Cotton calls you and says, "This is good enough. It's an all-time record."
Perfect, good.
And so you're signing it. Did it hit you at all before the game of like, wow, this is something? Or it's like, I'm just glad this is over and let's go play football?
Like, let's just go play football. Like, whatever.
Where did you sign the contract?
I signed it. It was on a Wednesday.
You did sign it on Wednesday. Did it get announced later in the week?
No. So they came up to me, and our guys came up to me and said, hey, it's out there that you signed the contract. We know you haven't signed it. Like, please wait to talk to the media until you sign the contract. And I was like, all right, like, perfect. I don't have to talk to the media. It's perfect. But then I actually ended up having to talk to him because that was the day I always spoke. I think he was on Wednesdays or Thursdays.
You were always opposite of Cam. I think
always,
Cam had Wednesday, you had Thursday.
I was Thursday, but of course, like they wanted to talk, obviously, because all that news was out. So I mean, I just got up there and I said, look, guys, I'm not going to talk just like some fluff. I'm not going to talk about the contract. I'm not at the point where I'm able to talk about it. And like, I understand that everybody's got to ask their question. And once the question answered it a couple times, then we just moved on to normal football. And then I signed it. And then that night, I don't know, whatever it was, that afternoon, they had like a little press conference. So,
and those are always a little bit strange, I imagine, because you're obviously thrilled to sign a contract, but you're like, this is awkward talking about some sort of, money that you're now making.
Yeah.
And they want to know everything, and you haven't seen a dollar yet. All you've done is sign a piece of paper and then go to practice.
Yeah, go to practice. Like,
Nothing's changed.
I just want to go play football. I don't.
Of course.
I don't care.
So the season starts. We go to Jacksonville. I know you got hurt in that game. Yeah. That was a big game. But what I really want to talk about is the game you came back from Jacksonville. Yeah. We go to Seattle right after the bye, week 6. Yeah. I remember the story leading up to it. AJ Klein, who backed you up, and that linebacking group was so close.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, AJ was dinged up. I think he may have even had a concussion and wouldn't tell anybody because they were waiting for you to get back to come back off of that. And I'm just trying to remember, you come back to Seattle. We're in week 6.
Yeah.
Was there any anxiety coming back?
No, because the reason it was a no is because, obviously you have your you have your symptoms, and obviously what bothers you. And I knew how I could create symptoms, if that makes sense. So like, if there were certain, like, it was like physical exertion and vestibular stuff would give me issues. So,
bright lights, like intense moments,
movement, like high heart rate lifting, high heart rate cardio stuff like that. So like, I knew the triggers, right?
Yep.
And so once a week, RV and I would, while I was coming back, would go do something that would challenge one of those systems. And obviously for the first couple weeks, nothing. It was obviously not better. So then I remember I went home for the bye week back to Cincinnati, and I had like 5 or 6 things that I knew really bothered me.
Yep.
And I went to this place where I used to work out in the off season, and I was like, all right, like, I got an hour and a half, and I'm gonna do a beat down workout and see what happens. And I remember I did that workout, and I felt great the whole time. And sometimes it's like a little bit delayed onset of some of those symptoms. I remember I did it, I took a shower, and I was sitting on my couch, and I'm like, I'm good. And it was literally like nothing. Like even the week before, I had some stuff, like, it was dull in there and like still bugged me a little bit. And I'm like, look, like, it's still here.
Yep.
And then I remember I did that workout back in Cincinnati, and I'm like, if it was gonna pop up, it would have popped up from this workout. I remember being at home and nothing happened, and I felt great, and I'm like, all right, I'm back. And that was like the Wednesday of the bye week. So then I also knew that I had another, like, I don't know, whatever it was, 10 days before I had to play again.
Yep.
And I told myself, I'm like, hey, look, you can't mess with this, because the running back in Seattle is
Marshawn Lynch was there.
He's made of concrete, so you better make sure that you're back. And that with all the concussion stuff, a lot of it comes down to confidence in, am I better? And I remember being like, yeah, I'm better.
You had to have been excited. Obviously, our season had ended the year prior in the divisional round on a Saturday night in Seattle. They had been our nemesis. Yeah. We'd never beat them. I think we'd lost 3 straight years, 11, 12, 13 in the regular season, all at home.
And then 14 in the regular season at home, and then 15 or 14 in the playoffs.
In the playoffs. So that was obviously a big game, and they were sputtering. I think they started 2-2 maybe, or 2. I think they were 2-3. Mm-hmm. We were 4-0. We got off to a great start. So that was obviously a pivotal game in that 2015 season. I think we knew it going in.
Yeah.
Right. And so we get down. We're down 10 or 12, maybe 13 points in the fourth quarter. Anything changed for you guys defensively versus Russell Wilson? Because we had 2 or 3 big stops. We remember the touchdown, but there was 2 or 3 big defensive stops in that final drive.
Yeah. So what I remember is we were down, like you said, 2. We just had a big stop, right? Yep. Offense goes down and scores, and they scored fast, which was great, because you obviously need as much time on the clock as you can get, because you need to get the ball back to the offense, obviously. And Seattle, we always what going into that game, it's like, all right, there's gonna be like 3 plays that they're gonna run. It's gonna be run to Marshawn,
which was a good play.
Run to Marshawn, hard play action with Russ on a boot, and then some sort of like quick game, like get the ball out. You know what I mean? And the 2 that's scary, the one that always scared me the most was the play action, like hard roll boot with Russ. Because in your mind at the end of the game, we have to stop Marshawn. Like, we can't let Marshawn turn like a 2-yard run into like a dirty 5, and now it's 2nd and 5. So like, you're like full sell out trying to stop Marshawn. And you got to be really dang sure that you're right, because you can't go hard 3-4 steps down on the line of scrimmage. Oh, dang, it's play action, then get out. The ball's going to be dumped already in the flat for 7 yards, and it's a first down, and the game's over.
Yep.
So we really stress, like, trust your keys, read your keys, and then our defensive ends, Charles and Mario and all those guys, you have to do a really good job of staying square and playing really good fundamental football, because if that ball gets if Russ is on a boot, we need to go close that gap to him and not let him get outside the pocket. So that's kind of what we thought about when they got the ball back there at the end of the game, was we got to stop Marshawn. We got to hit him, and we got to drive him back. And it's not like one dude doesn't.
You need
11.
You need everybody off the sideline to
and
hit
you
him.
can't let him fall forward. You got to win the battle on contact. So like hit him, contact's made, and then that's when the fight starts. So we got to win like contact battle. Like getting on him's not good enough. You got to win the battle when you get attached, and that takes everybody. So we're running to the football, we're tagging, and we're running our feet. Like once we hit him at 2 yards, it's got to be a 2-yard game. You can't let him. You can't hit him, and then you hit him on the side, and you get lazy, and then he spins and falls forward for 4. Like you can't do that, and we knew that. So that was in the run game. There was that, and the pass game was make Russ pull up on the play action pass and get really good reads, and a ball gets thrown in the flat, firm tackle. Like because they had big tight ends. Luke Wilson, he's like 6'6". So if he catches the ball and you make like a little soft tackle on him, and then he falls forward, now he's got 6. So hit these guys high, like in the chest, and take them backwards. So those are kind of the things that we talked about, and then obviously your hard counts.
That was just a big game because that was the first time in my career playing in Seattle where I'd ever heard it quiet. Mm-hmm. When we scored on the play, Greg's touchdown, the only voice I could hear running onto the field for the PAT was Joe Webb. Wah! He's yelling up and down our sideline. He was so excited. Cam was going nuts. Tolbert was going nuts. But Joe Webb, nobody had more fun than Joe. I remember that. I audibly remember hearing his voice as I'm running on the field because that entire place was dead sound except for our sideline, which might be the coolest feeling in all of sports. Let me fast forward. So I have to remember, I have to ask, do you remember the Colts Monday night game? You had an important interception.
Yes.
So kind of the fast forward part of the game, you had a big game. I think you had 10 or 11 tackles. You might have had a few more. We went into overtime. But Vinatieri makes a field goal to take the lead.
Yeah.
Graham comes back and he bangs home I want to say it was like a 52-yarder to tie it in overtime.
Yeah.
And I know that you remember the next play because they get the ball back with, let's call it 3 or 4 minutes left in overtime. Andrew Luck's got the ball. You remember that play?
No.
You had a pick in the game.
Yeah, but that was
that earlier?
No, so the pick, Roman Harper deflected it.
Yep.
I picked it, and then like 3 or 4 plays later, Graham made that field goal, and it was like a sloppy field, and Graham made a very difficult kick, and the game was over.
Yeah. So we were tied. You made the interception. You said Roman
made the play on the ball. I was just the lucky beneficiary.
That's all right. It's got to end up in somebody's hands.
Yeah.
And we may have even kicked that thing on 3rd down. I remember we got the game ball back from that kick, and it was heavy because it had been raining the whole game. And Graham and I and Brad Nortman, our punter, walked back out there, and we actually found where he planted on the 42-yard line. It was so wet that like your footprints like stayed in the ground if you knew where you were looking.
Yeah.
So we actually went back out there, and I think that was to go 8-0 Monday Night Football, and I think at that point we may have been the last remaining undefeated team.
Yep.
So that was one of the weirdest nights in Bank of America Stadium history.
Do you remember what Josh said that he was Batman and he was gonna defend Gotham City? He said that.
I don't remember this.
He said that in an interview leading up. Maybe it was either before the game or after the game, but it was the perfect scenario for Josh.
Oh yeah.
That he said Batman was defending Gotham City. I was like, oh my gosh.
We had so much personality, and I remember Coach Rivera was just adamant that we keep showing our personality, and that group you didn't have to keep asking. I mean, they were gonna show it. A couple weeks later, we go to Dallas. Thursday night, Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Only time I've ever played on Thanksgiving. Did you ever play in college or anything?
We played on a Friday.
What do you remember, before we get to the game, what do you remember about playing on Thanksgiving? Was there anything unique or special about that, or was it like another game to you?
When you get into it, it's another game.
Yep.
I liked Thursday games because it felt I was ready for the game to be there.
Yep.
And then I always liked that on the tail end, you had the long.
We call it the mini buy. Yep.
But it was. I mean, think about when you're growing up as a little kid and you're watching football, and it's always the 2 teams on TV playing on Thanksgiving, and we got to play on Thanksgiving down in Dallas against the Dallas Cowboys. You know, that was sweet.
Romo came back.
Romo came back the week before against Miami, had a so-so game.
Yep.
But the storyline was Romo's back. He got a week to get back up to speed.
Yep.
And they're inside on turf at home.
They were favorites.
Remember,
Ron made a big deal about that.
Yeah.
In the pregame talk to the team, Ron knew that the only other time this had ever happened where a 10-0 team had been an underdog on the road was when he had come with the 85 Bears.
Really?
I remember that very vividly, and they were underdogs to like a 5-5 Dallas team. I think Dallas in our game was 4-6. So we get off to a quick start. I don't know if you remember. Kurt Coleman had a pick like the very first play of the game.
Down,
or maybe it was third down. We scored, and it started to just spiral. But then you got two interceptions. Was it back-to-back plays?
Yes, back-to-back plays.
Okay, so you covered Witten on, was it the first one?
The first one, it was the same set. So they ran the same set twice. It was interesting trying to go back and think about like their thought process. So the first play was, we called it Charger. So Witten runs down the middle of the field. So if you look at Witten's the inside guy, then they had a slot receiver, and then they had the outside guy. It was Beasley was a slot.
Yeah.
Witten runs the vertical. He runs like a clear out. Just run down the middle of the field. Beasley runs like a 6 or 7 yard sit, and then they had a big dig in cut 6 that came behind that sit route.
So they're trying to high-low
the nickel in cover 2.
Got it.
And that's always a route that I love that route. I think it's a cool route, but you got to be in the right coverage to be able to play it.
Okay.
And we were in the right coverage. Remember, Thomas changed the play because it was supposed to be a blitz. Romo saw the blitz, slid protection. Like, all right, we got to get out of this. So we switched to cover 2, and it just happened perfectly. And then the very next play, they come out in the same set, and instead of Witten running a clear out, Beasley running a sit, and the guy running a dig, they ran what we call just 4 verts. So the front 3 guys run verticals, and the backside receiver runs a vertical. And I'd come off the inside vertical the play before, but we were in a different coverage. We were in quarters instead of cover 2. It changes my responsibility. So that means I had Witten all the way down the middle of the field. So I had Witten basically man if he ran down the middle of the field. And again, credit to McDermott, great play call.
Yeah.
Put me in a really good position. That's a lot of playing defense is, are you in the right position to make the play? And then you just have to go make the play. So that's kind of what it came down to was first situation, Thomas had great awareness to get us out of that defense because initially Mario Addison or whoever that front side defensive end was the dropper in that dig window. So it would have been a bad matchup for us. Mario's coming, or whoever it was coming from the line of scrimmage. Just a 20-yard route. It's a long way to go. So Thomas switched us out, which was great. And then the next time, McD just had a really good play call. It was a quarters concept, and just, again, right situation, right place.
Remind me, which of those 2 interceptions, I think it may have been the first, did you punch Romo in the face?
That was the first one.
Did you realize what you were doing as it was happening?
Oh, yeah.
Did you slow down to hopefully get him a little bit closer?
I think I tried to run to him. Because you got to get a piece of the quarterback whenever you can.
Get a shot whenever you can. As the ball carrier, you get
special responsibility. Like if you ever hit anybody in the face in football other than a stiff arm, it's a penalty.
That's right, but you got the ball, so
you can do
you're looking for contact.
Yeah.
I remember that just being such a fun night. Cam was electric. The defense was fantastic.
Josh and Dez.
That was a great matchup, and I think we ended up kicking like 5 field goals.
Yeah.
We may have punted once. Like we were scoring and turning them over. Like everybody. It's one of those rare games where everybody is having a good day.
Yeah.
Offense, defense, special teams, everyone's having a good day. So when you get on that plane, as much as we all want to say, hey, we win and lose together as a team, if the defense has a bad day and you win, the defense is still pretty upset.
Yeah.
That was one of those rare wins where everyone felt good about what had happened on the field, which makes those rides home really, really, really cool. So I want to fast forward here as we're kind of winding down. There's so many great memories. Mm-hmm. We had 2 playoff games at home, and I still believe that those are my 2 favorite games I've ever played in, back to back. We played Seattle again. Jonathan gets us off to a great start with nearly an 80-yard run. I think he got tackled. We punched it in a few plays later.
Yeah.
Jonathan may have even punched it in.
Yeah.
And then you get another matchup with Russell right off the jump to start that game. It was cold. It was a cold day too. I mean, it was like 35 degrees in Charlotte.
Yeah. So first play of the whenever we played Seattle, they were obviously a really good football team. But I felt like we had a really good feel for what they wanted to do on the offense side of the ball. So I never felt like I had any kind of like stress or anxiety about like the game plan.
Okay.
Because they were simple on offense, but they were like us on defense. We were simple on defense, but we felt very strongly that we are really good on defense, and if we do our job, we're going to be great. And I feel like that's how they were on offense. So going into that game, we're like, all right, heavy Marshawn Lynch diet, Russ running around making stuff happen. They got two good receivers that are like crafty, Baldwin and Jermaine Kearse.
Yep.
But Marshawn was coming back that game. I remember he was a little bit dinged up, and
they had just come back. I believe they had played in that wild game in Minnesota the week before where it was 10-9.
Yeah, that cold game.
Super cold game.
Anyways, so first play of the game, they run the ball. Star Lotulelei, made a big TFL on Marshawn. So then they're backed up again, and then shortly after that, the two guys that made the best two plays to start the game were Star.
Yep.
He made the tackle on Marshawn.
Yep.
And then KK.
Yeah.
We were in, again, we played a lot of quarters that year. We were in quarters, they motioned the tight end across to kind of give him like a more preferential matchup in the run game, but they obviously ended up throwing the ball. And KK won so fast on his pass rush that Russ had a scramble and he tried to dump the ball off to Marshawn underneath, which was like kind of my pass responsibility to stay over the running back. And Marshawn went this way. Russ thought he was going to go that way. And I could kind of see Russ's eyes, and he started throwing the ball, and Marshawn broke this way, and I kind of broke to where he was throwing the ball. And again, it's just a lot of football is just right spot, right time, and being a beneficiary of somebody else. So like,
sure,
KK won so fast, gets in Russ's face, makes him kind of throw an ill-advised ball, kind of miscommunication between Rush and Marshawn, and then I was able to grab that. And that was, we started fast on both sides of the ball, and it was, before you know, it was 14-0. I remember Russ walking off the field, and it's saying 13-0, and there was like 12 minutes to go in the first quarter.
Yeah, we hadn't been but maybe 5 or 6 total plays in the game.
Yeah,
and it was 14-0 like that, and it got up to 31-0.
And then we didn't score in the second half.
We didn't score in the second half.
I felt like they just ran out of time.
They did run out of time.
Because they were starting to score on us. Like they had kind of figured something out, and we were like, dang on.
So I'm curious. So were you on the hands team?
Yes.
Okay, so I always laugh about that play.
I got a story about that.
So the year before, okay, I want to hear about it, because the year before, Seattle in the NFC Championship game was down, and that was the infamous Stephen Hauschka high hop. And I'm forgetting the guy's name.
Green Bay,
First
right?
Green Bay, and instead of letting Jordy Nelson, their
guy.
true dude, someone kind of just, I forget the tight end's name, just kind of lost his mind, which happens in nervous situations. And so I think we all had that play in our head, and you were out there on the field. What was going through your head on that play?
So I was a frontline guy. So right next to me was Ed.
Okay, Ed Dixon.
Ed Dixon, and I forget who was next to Ed. But our job, number one, is, all right, so the angle of the kick, right? So the first thing you do on the hands team is you step across whatever that is, JJ.
We call it the restraining line.
The restraining line.
Yep.
That way they cannot hit you until you touch the ball.
I always used to joke with Greg. They can hit you. It's just a penalty.
It's a penalty. Yes.
They can and they will hit you. Just it will be a penalty.
Yeah, but I knew that if our rule was step across,
yes,
then you can field the ball.
Yep.
But you only field the ball if it's kicked at an angle that allows you to field it.
Yep.
If it's kicked fast or not at an angle where you need to field the ball, then your job is to block their front line.
Sure.
And the guy we were designated to catch the ball was Thomas.
Which always felt like a little crazy to me. He was one of our best players, but I don't think anyone thought he had the best hands on the team.
No, but it was like if you need it,
he was your dude.
He's your dude.
I always thought he was one of the interesting ones.
Yeah.
Because you were relying on your best players are in that position, not necessarily the guys who could catch the best.
Because Greg, you remember Greg?
He was right in the middle.
The bunt guy.
He was the bunt guy.
That's the hardest position.
That made a lot of sense.
And it takes the most brain power. So Greg, best hands on our team. That situation was perfect for him. So I remember it was the angle of the kick. The angle of the kick is 95% of the time, the angle of the kick is never going to allow me to catch it, which is perfect.
So you didn't want the ball.
So my job was I count in from outside on their kickoff team. So their kickoff team is who
we use a number system where you're counting just guys from the outside in.
And I was the number 3. So my job is to just go block the number 3 guy and not let him get anywhere near Thomas. So, like, step across the line and let the ball clear and then go get that guy. Like, not like tackle him, but like he is not allowed anywhere near the ball.
Yep.
So I'm like, perfect. That job's easy. Like, just get in the way, take up some space, let Thomas catch the ball, and then go cover Thomas up. But I remember when they came out of the lineup there, I just see like, number 31 lurking, like walking Cam Chancellor.
Absolutely.
And I was like, oh, mama, I'm buckled up. Everything's good. And we start counting, and it's like, I'm like 1, and then like the 2 and the 3 guys are like stacked.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh man.
So you're anticipating a twist. You don't know who you're gonna get.
Yeah. I don't know who I'm gonna get, but then right before the ball gets kicked, they separate. And this is, I don't remember who this guy was.
Wasn't Cam?
It was number 2, and Doug and Ed Dixon had Cam. And I looked at Ed, and I'm like, all right, bud, have fun. And they kick the ball, and like we step across, we go get our guys, and Thomas jumps 8 feet in the air and catches the ball.
Lands on his head,
just like
you said. Marshawn Lynch has got a concrete head earlier. Thomas is the same way, so he was fine.
And we all go cover Thomas up, and like if Thomas has the ball, like it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But of course you got to get in the pile. Like you got to get in the pile, and it's so funny. What you always look for is like glove color. Like you don't know who anyone's arms are. Like you can't tell whose arm goes to who. What you can always tell is glove color. So do you have more of your glove color around the ball than the other team?
Yeah.
And so basically the game is like get as many Panther glove colors around the ball.
Peel the other glove colors off the ball.
Like get them off the ball. And get your hands around. And I knew what gloves Thomas wore, which is like
you knew him better than anybody on the team.
All these stupid things that you learn about your guys. I knew exactly what kind of gloves he wore, so I'm like, all right, those big hands got the football. I just got to get more hands around it. So,
last question I had, and I know you've talked about the play in the NFC Championship game, the interception late in the game.
Yeah.
Game was in hand. Carson Palmer had a tough game. Our defense made it really, really hard. But do you remember vividly the fan falling out of the stands?
Yeah, I do.
What did you have any sense of like what was happening at the time, or was it just like you go from scoring a touchdown to like, oh my gosh, I hope this guy just didn't break his neck falling out of the stands?
Well, yeah, you don't. You live in like this window. Like when I was playing, I lived in like this window of this is all I see, and it's like game, and then you make the play, you run into the end zone, and then the guy falls out of the stands, and I'm like, all right, this is my focus. And there's in the video, there's like some lady that is there, and you can see it. I push her out of the way, and you don't know what's going on.
Right.
I push her out of the way, and I remember looking at him, and him looking up, and you could see the look on his face, like I just fell. I have I don't know where I am.
Right.
And Cam was out there, Josh was out there. It was just kind of one of those situations where I just remember being like, are you all right? And he said, yeah. And I went to help him up. And by that time, there was like security guards all over the place, and Cam's jumping on top of people. And it just happened. It happened so fast. But I would just remember running and then being by the stands and just like an object falling in front of me, and I was like, it's a person.
That's right.
And he landed, fortunately, he landed like directly on his back, and I think he was fine.
Yeah, so I don't remember it being like a dramatic thing. It was just one of these fun moments. I'm running onto the field for a PAT, and there's people falling out of the stands.
Yeah.
Security and players are helping people up. It was no one was like threatened by it. It was just really funny moment that will forever be linked with your career.
It was hilarious.
That you immediately went from, when I talk to other guys about you, one of the things that always comes up is how you're such an animal on the field, but then when you're outside the white lines, you're so nice and accommodating. We've had these stories a ton of times, and I thought that was the epitome. Was you just had one of the biggest interceptions of your career in the NFC Championship game. We know we're going to the Super Bowl, and the guy falls out of the stands, and you're immediately into like, let me help you up. Can I get you a water? Like,
Yeah, but the thing that everyone fails to mention is I pushed that poor lady.
I didn't remember
because I had the ball in my. I think I had the ball in my right hand.
Yep.
And I just remember like I don't remember doing it, but when you go back and watch it, there's a lady. I just kind of give her like a little shove, a little nudge, and I'm like,
I wish you hadn't done
probably
that.
not the best move, but
That year, as we're going to make our final little lap around here, I wanted to get a few more stories out of you. That year was special. I don't know that we started the year knowing how special it would be.
No, I don't think we did.
But I remember so many fun traditions began to build.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of pictures with you with clearly having cut your hair. The beards were crazy. We could talk about some of those stories forever.
Yeah.
But the one that I always wish I had been a part of that I never got to be was the team photos.
Oh.
Because inevitably what would happen with the team photo was it was happening when the defense was on the field because Cam was the ringleader.
Yeah.
Or special teams.
Yeah.
I never got to be a part of one.
Yeah.
Did you get to be a part of them?
I think I got in one at the NFC Championship game because you're right. Either we were on the field or you guys were on the field. And if you guys were on the field, I didn't half the time I didn't even know they were going on.
I didn't know that this was a tradition for many years. By the end of this series, I'm going to get to the bottom of how did that start.
Yeah.
But I remember being very jealous. I think it was after the NFC Championship game because I
was in that one.
You were in that one because
in the back, just
because
like
the
smiling.
backups had started to go into the game, so guys were getting pulled out in the whole bit.
Yeah.
And I think we might have actually been punting because I think I came off the field
trying to run over.
I saw all those people. And
you should have had like a. Your shoestring should have been messed up and
just to get
into the
one.
picture. Yeah.
Did you? I think that's always been one of the signs of a good team. The winning always helps, but is the team is bonding over these fun things.
Close. We were close with like dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Just dumb little things that were a big deal, like because it made everybody like this is what we do. This is important. Like Bojangles on Fridays, Fellowship Fridays.
Yeah, talk about that as we're winding down. What do you remember about Bojangles Fellowship Fridays?
So on Fridays, we'd always had food catered on Fridays, and throughout the whole time it was, if you win, you keep the same food.
Yes.
So obviously, we didn't lose until Christmas, and then we kept the Bojangles after.
And I don't think we never switched.
We never switched, which was great. But basically, what happened in the cafeteria is there was all these big circle tables, and then we'd pool like 4 or 5 tables together, and everybody would sit down, and Greg would inevitably tell all the stories and hold
he
court,
was the ringleader for sure.
Hold court, and it was just it was a great time, and we had people. It was players, it was coaches, it was people that worked upstairs, these equipment guys. It was just if you got to show up every time though.
You had to show up every time.
If once you're in, you got to come.
The cool part about that always was, you just mentioned it. It didn't matter if you were a player, coach, staff. Brian Porter, Mike Anderson, they were in that group.
Do it.
And then there was these stories that built up. If somebody was dating someone, every week you had to get an update on who they were dating and how the dates went.
Yeah.
If you started some story in week 3, we had to get updates all the way through Santa Clara.
Oh, and and if you sit down, you have to be able. If somebody asks you something, you got to answer it.
You got to answer.
Yeah.
There was a ton of pressure. Even some guys tried to back out of it.
It's like
Greg was the best at pulling people in. By the end, we were probably 5 or 6 of these big round tables.
Yeah.
A good day, we'd probably have 25, 30 people all sitting together.
It's the best. But it just speaks to that team and how much fun we had, and really how much fun we had being around each other.
Sure.
And it was less like, oh, we have to be with each other, and it was more of we enjoy spending time with each other.
I always felt like what was special about the team, besides the winning, I've said this many, many times, we had so many people that were leaders, but no one was ever fighting for leadership positions. I always said about you and Thomas. Thomas ran the team, but you ran the defense. Mm-hmm. And you didn't really get in each other's way. You didn't really want to run the team, and Thomas didn't really want to run the defense.
Yeah. You
guys were able to be leaders in your own way, in your own avenues, and that was on offense, defense, special teams. We had a group of 6 captains. I'm sure we'll find some iconic photos of our captains. But if I looked at them, I would say everyone had a different role, and there was never any jockeying for position. Of all my seasons that I've ever played, I don't think there was ever a year where I looked at like who our captains were and said, you're missing one.
Yeah.
Or that guy shouldn't be. It was because everyone had a role. It had, and everyone was committed to being a part of that.
Yeah, and everyone was bought into the Carolina Panthers. Like,
yes.
On offense, it was Greg, Ryan, Cam.
Yep.
And then on defense, it was Chuck, Thomas, and then me. And it was just like everyone had their role. And I think the other best thing that we had was we had leaders that, like Ben Jacobs.
Yes.
Ben Jacobs.
Number 53, special teams linebacker.
He played forever.
Yep.
And he was a fantastic leader because he would do anything the team needed.
Yes.
Literally anything. He'd play every scout team down on defense. If you needed a tight end to play, if we had some tight ends banged up, Ben would go play tight end on offensive scout team for the defense.
Yep.
He played all 4 phases, and its energy was fantastic. And when you look at guys like that, that's what makes your team, are the guys that no one ever talks about, but they are such important parts of your team because they do things right way every time, and they're leaders in their own. Like on special teams, Ben was a fantastic leader. He was a great leader for our linebacker room because he knew every spot. Like, if Ben didn't practice defense like for 8 weeks and we needed somebody to go and play will linebacker, just put Ben in, like, and you don't even have to think about it. Like, nothing changes with the defense. You don't miss a step. And then I think about guys on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, all the big names, Stu and Ryan and Greg and Cam and, whoever else. But guys like Koch, that just like, he was a veteran, had tons of success, but he got it, and he was so good for that wide receiver room. Just like a veteran guy, calm, cool, collected, did everything right literally all the time, tough as nails, caught everything, reliable, dependable, tough, and a great older guy for young players. He was perfect. So, we had, like, the big guys that everyone, wants to talk about. Yep. But then we had layers of guys underneath that just got what it meant to be a good teammate and a good football player. And guys like Koch understood what makes a good football team, and they just were fantastic for us.
You hit on a couple vets. The other ones I just want to make special mention of. Charles Tillman, Peanut showed up, taught everyone the peanut punch. That was a huge recipe for our defensive success.
Yeah.
We traded for Jared Allen in the middle of the year. And what was really cool about that group, too, is we brought in all these veterans, Hall of Famers, and guys who had been to playoff games and Pro Bowls, and they bought into the Panther way.
Yes.
And they wanted to. And they, if anything, they were sort of reinforcing to us who had been here our whole career.
Like, you're doing it right.
You're doing it right. And I always thought that was really special because you and I have been a part of teams where a veteran comes in and goes, well, back where I used to play.
Yeah.
And we had none of that from our veteran group. No. And that was so instrumental in just adding to what was a really successful end of 2014 and kind of launching us into a 2015, which, again, you and I have talked about this. We've all talked about this, that we would have loved to have finished it off in Santa Clara, but 17 wins, most in Panther history. And I would argue that season probably was the most impactful, certainly in the Carolinas, but it changed the way a lot of people thought about football. The team celebrations, you see now the football giveaways that Cam did, you see all of that happen all the time now. And so it just speaks to how special that year was. And like you said, it starts with the people.
Well, the other thing too is you can say, we won a ton of games and it was awesome and, the celebrations. But I think that year you play football because I think it's fun. That was the most fun that I think if you ask a lot of those guys, that was the most fun that a lot of us had playing football. And we got to share all that together. Like,
absolutely.
The shared experience of that season was special. And I think we really all enjoyed it. So
this was fun. This was fun. We did great.
We're in the AC. It's 98 degrees out.
So this is partly to up the level of car talk, but also just to avoid 98 outside. So Luke, I appreciate it. 2015 trip down memory lane. This was great, dude.
Hell yeah.
All right, keep pounding.